Okay, good evening, everybody. Thanks for taking precious time off to attend this evening's talk. And then we're indeed very honored to have Mr. Ben with us. All right, so before we start, let me just briefly introduce Mr. Ben and his professional life. Right, so Ben graduated with a computer science degree from the National University of Singapore. Right, he was an earlier pioneer of Java and Linux technology in Singapore. We're working for the National Computer Board and the Elixir technology. He led major groundbreaking technical development projects for organizations like MES, Citibank, GIC, MOE. During the dot-com era, he led a startup team to create AsiaPaperMarkets.com, a mega B2B platform for the paper industry. He also served in HP as the business development manager for the Southeast Asia. He has very deep experience working in Asia, especially the China market. In 2016, Ben started his research and venture into blockchain technology. In 2017, he established IBD Technology in Singapore with the goal of building a global data analytical and sharing application platform for SMEs to go digital. Ben is also the chairperson of Singapore WOLOT Foundation and sits on the expert panel of China Mobile Communication Alliance, CMCA, Global Blockchain Application Alliance. Right. So with that, let's welcome Mr. Ben, all right, to share his insight about blockchain. Yeah, Mr. Ben, over to you.
Hi, thank you, Vincent. Can everyone hear me? Can
yes.
you see me? Okay. Is the share screen visible?
Yeah, okay.
Okay, great. Thank you, Vincent, first of all, for invite me here to share this with you. I think this will be a more informal sharing session. I'll try to share what I have learned, and I'll try to make it easy and instead of all the technical jargons. And at the end of the session, if we have any question, we can discuss. So I hope this is a more free and easy session going forward, right? So as Vincent shared just now, I founded this WOLOT Foundation 2017. And our main aim is, it is a not-for-profit organization. We want to build an ecosystem for SME worldwide, such that the SME can share user data, can share traffic, and share data analysis. So that will help them address their main pain points, right, which is user traffic and also data analysis. So that's how we started using blockchain, and it has been a few years of very fast-paced and exciting progress, more like an adventure actually, right? So, and I think since last year, what has come into the attention of many people in the world is this word called DeFi, right? It stands for Decentralized Finance. So today's topic is we want to talk about what is DeFi and why is it so popular, and what are the pros and cons of DeFi? How can it be impacting our lives, and how can we use it? Okay, so first of all, to understand DeFi, we have to understand what is blockchain and what is token economy, right? So we're not going to blockchain in detail today, but I just want to touch on the token economy. And the core of it is, of course, the very first blockchain in the world, which is Bitcoin, right? So recently, because of Tesla, everybody noticed about Bitcoin. And because of the tweet that Tesla CEO Elon Musk made back in February, he is going into Bitcoin big time, right? In fact, he bought 1.5 billion worth of Bitcoin. And he said he will later accept Bitcoin as a payment for his products. And that happened just recently, a few, I think 13 hours ago or a day ago. Elon Musk announced again that you can now really buy Tesla with Bitcoin. And I think initially I thought this is more like a gimmick, to attract attention, to pull up his stock prices and so on. But as I look further, he said that Tesla is only using internal and open source software and operates Bitcoin nodes directly. That means a lot, right? That means, first of all, he is part of the Bitcoin network now. So he owns his own node. So he's operating his own node. and it bypasses all the legacy system, all the payment system out there. So it directly transacts with the user. You pay me Bitcoin and I keep it. And there's no third party involved. And he also said that you'll be retained, not converted to fiat currency. So that spells a lot about how he viewed Bitcoin as a long-term investment, right? And also, of course, I think he also wants that to push his Tesla stock prices up, right? So that is the kind of trend that we are seeing since last year, where in the 2017 bull run, it was mainly pushed by retail investors like you and I. But in this year's bull run, it was obviously backstopped by all the big institutions like Tesla, PayPal, and we see some of that later on. So I think over the evolution, the last 13 years of evolution of Bitcoin started as a more centralized digital currency. Of course, Satoshi, right, is the only one that knows about it and built it up. But over the years, it has gradually become more and more decentralized. As it becomes more decentralized, more people know about it, more people accept it, and they form what we call a consensus around the value and the purpose of Bitcoin, right? And throughout the years, it has now evolved to become a store of value. So I think Tesla, all these people come in because they see that as a store of value to hedge against the falling value of dollars, right? So I think over the years, Bitcoin the price has been very, very volatile, but slowly as it gains traction, as its whole capital, market capitalization, the market value grows into the trillions, it will tend to become more stable. The price will tend to become more stable, eventually become a really global medium of exchange. So that's how we see this Bitcoin. So the reason we talk about this is we want to know why are people doing this? Why are the institutions coming in? So if you look at the 10 largest banks in the US, of the 10, you see all the traditional big banks like JP Morgan, Citigroup, Wells Fargo, Morgan Stanley, and so on, right? But notice two. Number 2 is PayPal. Number 7 is Square. And these are non-brick and mortar, right? They are in the cloud. They are the banks in the cloud. And they are now number 2 and number 7. So the banking system is changing. And we look at Citibank, it even recently came out and said that Bitcoin could become the main global digital currency, right? It's at a tipping point, he says, at a tipping point. So I think the big banks are now changing their stand from against Bitcoin, then now to accepting Bitcoin, right? And the main reason is because Bitcoin is truly decentralized. We'll talk more about that later on. And Goldman Sachs also come out, and Square bought millions, hundreds of millions of worth of Bitcoin. Right? He said that it has the potential to become the native currency of the internet. Right? PayPal again. So PayPal has come out and said that it plans to eventually make Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies usable as a payment method for purchases through its 26 million merchants worldwide. That is very, very big, right? One of the biggest payment gateway in the world saying this, right? And now you can buy Bitcoin on PayPal for as low as $1, right? So you buy 0.0001 Bitcoin, right? And a little bit fact about the daily newly minted Bitcoins, 800, 900 of them, most of them are actually bought by PayPal and Square users, right? So now the small retail investors are out in droves to buy Bitcoin, and most likely with their these new checks that government gave them, right? So, and a fun fact, look at how long it took for tech companies to reach $1 trillion market cap. Google took 22 years to reach $1 trillion US. Apple took 42 years to reach $1 trillion. And Facebook has yet to reach it. And Bitcoin did it in 12 years. 12 years, that's the record for a tech company. And notice this, that Bitcoin has no marketing budget, has no management team, it has no company, it doesn't even have a CEO. And yet it reached $1 trillion in less than 12 years. So back to the question, why? Why Bitcoin? Why cryptocurrency? Right? I think One of the reasons we can see very clearly is that over the past year, all the major central banks are the printing machine, the money printing machine is going blur, right? So full steam ahead. And in fact, there was a study that showed that of all the US dollar in existence, 40% of the US dollars were printed in the last 12 months. That's very scary. I think about that. So in fact, the US dollar is losing value at 15, 20% a year. So that is the reason why I think people like Michael Saylor, Elon Musk are putting Bitcoin into their accounts, into their asset, right? So that they want to hedge against the falling value of the US dollar. So because of all this QE going on, cash is now flowing to high use assets like stocks, properties, Bitcoin, gold, and so on. Of course, now people see Bitcoin, BTC as being a better goal, right? And of course, ultimately, the reason that people trust Bitcoin because it is disintermediated, it is totally decentralized and not controlled by any single entity or government, right? US dollars are printed by the US government. Chinese print the renminbi, right? So, but nobody can control Bitcoin because Bitcoin, there's only 21 million of those out there written into the code. Nobody can change that, right? And it cannot be stopped by any country or any single government. Because it's so decentralized, these big companies can trust this Bitcoin and as a digital gold, as an asset, right? Because it is scarce and it's fixed in supply. Well, gold is not fixed in supply, definitely not the dollar, right? There's no other currency, at least according to Michael Saylor. Bitcoin is the apex of all assets in the world, even better than gold. Okay, so that's the background. And let's talk about our topic today, DeFi, the rise of DeFi. What is DeFi? DeFi essentially is what we call decentralized finance, right? It is a blockchain-based form of finance that does not rely on a central financial intermediaries or company like brokerages, exchanges, or banks to offer these financial services and products. Instead, it uses what we call smart contracts, which are basically programs, computer programming code that runs on the blockchain automatically and cannot be changed, right? So the most common of this blockchain being used is what we call Ethereum, right? So let's look at CeFi. CeFi is centralized finance, the traditional services like banks, loans, insurance that we are very familiar with, right? So if Alice wants to send money to Bob, it has to go through a bank or some kind of financial institution, right? But in DeFi, all the payment, checking, savings, borrowing, lending, insurance, taxes, accounting services, and so on are all based on blockchain protocol and cryptocurrencies. There's no middleman. There's no middleman in there. The middleman is the code itself, right? And therefore, it is permissionless and it is much faster. Let's look at some of the trend of DeFi. Right now, DeFi, if you look at the chart at the bottom right here, DeFi total market cap, right, grew from 12, 13 months ago, which is under 1 billion, and is now approaching 100 billion USD in about a year, right, 13 months. So that's like 100 over times increase in 13 months. That's phenomenal. But if you look at the whole picture, DeFi is only 5.3% of the global crypto market, right? Which itself is under $2 trillion. Half of that belongs to Bitcoin, right? So even $2 trillion, it is less than 20% of the gold market cap itself, let alone the rest of the financial industries, where we talk about hundreds of trillions. So DeFi is only just beginning, right? Even though it has shot up so fast, so quickly, and so much, but it is still just a baby, right? Let's look at some of the cryptocurrency decentralized exchanges. The most famous of which I think if you've heard of is what I call Uniswap, PancakeSwap, and SushiSwap, and all this swap, right? The swap basically means it's an exchange, right? You want to trade one coin for another. Please notice that in this DeFi exchange, they only deal with cryptocurrency. They don't deal with fiat currency like USD or renminbi or Chinese Singapore dollar. They deal with crypto only. So it's a crypto to crypto exchange. Okay, so Uniswap is now doing 24-hour volume of almost 600 million, 800 million, right? So it is quite big. It is almost comparable to the traditional exchanges that we have seen. Let's look at the next one. Okay, this is a list of the traditional centralized exchange. Okay, a listing, the biggest of which is Binance. Binance volume is 21 billion, right? 21 billion. Coinbase, the biggest one in USA, the crypto exchange is doing $2 billion worth of exchange a day. Kraken and Vopi and so on, right? So these are obviously bigger, okay? But there's one thing to note, right? So if you know about the cryptocurrency exchanges, you would know things like wash trading, right? And what's wash trading? That means out of these billions of volume, I think a certain percentage of that is actually not real trade, but wash trade. That means self-trading, right? Bots trading, which is just there to increase the volume. Okay, so that is not real trading volume, because in a centralized exchange, the centralized exchange can do anything they want. Okay, they can print money just like the US dollar can print money. So a lot of the currency being traded on the exchange are not real money until you need to cash it out. So when you cash it out, they need to give you the real. So for example, if you put in 100 Bitcoin into Binance, right? So Binance can create 1,000 or a few thousand or hundreds of thousands of Bitcoin in there for trading, right? So these are not real Bitcoin. They only exist within their system. But when you want to withdraw that 100 Bitcoin that you put in, they will have to give you the real 100 Bitcoin. Okay, so while the volume can be in a way fake, right? So there's no way to tell how much of this trading is real. But in a DeFi exchange, the one we saw just now, like a Uniswap, PancakeSwap, and all that, these have to be real volume, because the idea of a decentralized exchange is there's no middleman, there's no one company, and everything is open and is open source, and all the money, all the currencies and assets that you put in are real. It has to be contributed by somebody with the real money, real crypto. So the volume we see are 100% real. Someone has to put it there, right? So this is what we believe are real volume, whereas in the centralized exchange, it's hard to say, right? It's hard to say. Okay, so let's look at some of the like Uniswap, the most famous DeFi exchange, right? So what is Uniswap? It is actually very different from traditional exchange. If you're familiar with SGX, right? So it's an order book system. Someone buys, someone to sell, they put their orders online and they try to match it, right? That's called the order book. But this kind of system cannot work in automated decentralized exchange, right? So Uniswap use what we call an automated liquidity protocol, which is, we are not going into the details of how it is implemented, but it's basically a program, a big set of smart contracts, computer program that runs all these things automatically without any intervention from human. So it's automated, right? So it obviates the need for trusted intermediaries, and therefore it prioritizes what we call decentralization, censorship resistance. That means you cannot censor it, you cannot prevent someone from doing a trade because you don't like the person. And there's very low entry of barriers, and anybody can come in and play, right? And of course, it has better security. One of the problems with centralized exchange is that we have seen, especially those who have used centralized exchange, there are all sorts of problems, right? The most famous one being the first one, the Japanese crypto exchange Mt. Gox got hacked, right? millions of dollars were hacked and lost. So users' funds were gone, hundreds of millions of dollars gone. And in today's term, it could be billions of dollars already. So who's responsible for that? Nobody, right? Because you sue them, they say that they got hacked and they were also a victim, and till now they are still fighting the court case. Okay, so for all you know, it could be an insider's job, right? Who knows? Okay, you never know, right? And also we have famous exchanges that kind of just pull the plug when the prices of these cryptos are going up rapidly. They pull the plug and suddenly you cannot get in to liquidate, and they automatically liquidate all your contracts for you, right? So these are things that happens, right? But it will not be able to happen on a decentralized exchange like Uniswap, right? Because there's no one there to pull the plug. Everything is automated. Okay, so and Uniswap is open source. Most of these decentralized finance systems, they are open source, so you can go check the source code, see if there's any backdoor, any bug in it, and so on, right? So it tends to create a kind of trust on this kind of protocol. So in essence, the benefit is that anybody can participate in providing liquidity. Okay, so in the traditional centralized exchange or finance, the company that runs it make all the money, right? But in DeFi finance, the people, anybody can come in and participate and earn the income. For example, in Uniswap, you can provide liquidity, right? You can provide the tokens needed for trading, and you earn the trading fee from it. Okay, and the trading volume, like I said, is real, and they don't custody your fund, right? Unlike a centralized exchange, you put your money into it, 100 Bitcoin, you put it into Binance, it belongs to Binance. It's not yours anymore until you withdraw it back, if you ever withdraw it back, right? Until then, it is not your money, right? It belongs to Binance, it belongs to all this Coinbase, right? But in DeFi, Uniswap, the money that you play with, the coins that you put in are all yours and is controlled by you as long as you have the private key with you, right? So that's the key, right? So you must control your own tokens, your own assets. Otherwise, it doesn't belong to you. Okay, so that is Uniswap. And we notice the Uniswap price of their token, Uni, right? For over the last year, less than a year, it has gone up 940%. That's 9 times, right? In less than a year. Okay, so that shows how crazy this thing is. Okay, let's look at another example, Compound. Another DeFi very popular DeFi product is called Compound. It is actually a system to loan and to borrow money and to give loans, right? Okay, again, it is based on smart contracts, which are basically programs that runs automatically, okay, and is openly accessible. Again, it's built on Ethereum. So Compound focus on allowing borrowers to take out loans and lenders to provide loans, okay? And they do this by locking their crypto asset into the protocol first, right? So once you lock your asset, for example, you lock your Bitcoin, your Ethereum into this system, then you can lend money from it, okay? So the amount of crypto that you lock into it is called a collateral, okay? So for lending, you will be able to earn interest, okay? For borrowing, of course, you have to pay interest, and the interest goes to the lender and part of it to the coins as well. So in this way, there's no intermediaries. Everybody can be someone that is participating either in lending or borrowing, right? So you can do that without having to spend time, effort, and cost of dealing with traditional banks or financial intermediaries. So it's more efficient, okay, and less costly as well. So again, look at the price. Compound price over the last 1 year shot up 545%, 5 times. Okay, that reflects how popular the coin have become. Okay, another very popular this DeFi is called Yen Finance, and this is kind of legendary, right? Yen Finance is a protocol that helps you to find the best yield for your assets, so that it can help you to move your asset into different protocols, like Compound or Aave or Curve or Bancor or MakerDAO or Uniswap, to find the best return, or what we call yield, for you, right? And they also issued their own token, YFI, and YFI shot up to 45,000 USD within the first few months. Okay, and the first coin to exceed Bitcoin at the time, right? Bitcoin at the time was like, I think, under 20,000, and YFI was already hit 45,000. Of course, it came down again and up, right? So overall, over the last year or so, it has gone up 3,159%. Now imagine you bought it in 1 year ago, right? So how much you would have gained by now? So that's YFI. Okay, so if you look at why DeFi becomes so popular, at least among the crypto circle, right? People who have using crypto circle, which is in this case probably a few 100,000 people, not a big population yet. Majority of the population in the world may have heard of DeFi but did not really participate in it. We'll discuss why later on. Okay, so obviously many believe that all these DeFi projects have the potential to become the next Robin Hood. I think you heard of Robin Hood, right? Made famous by the GameStop case earlier this year, right? So the real Robin Hood is supposed to rob the rich and give to the poor, but in this case, it's a reverse, right? They rob the poor and give to the rich. Okay, so DeFi could have the potential to be the real Robin Hood in this case, right? So by drawing a lot of new users, by making all these financial application more inclusive and open to everyone, especially those who traditionally have no access to banks or such platforms, right? We are talking about billions of unbanked people, especially in developing countries like Africa or some Asian countries, right? They have no access to banks because banks will find that the cost of acquiring such user is too high, and they will not get enough returns from this user, so they rather not serve this user. So what can they do? How do they get insurance? How do they loan money? How do they earn money, right? So I think DeFi is possibly one of the good solutions for them, because it doesn't matter who you are, you can join, right? So DeFi cut out the middleman, right? Lower the entry barrier, therefore lowering the cost of entering this. It is more inclusive. Anybody can do it, right? You have $1, you can do it. You have $100,000, you can join, okay? And it kind of return the control back to the user, allow the user to participate, at least getting these financial services, and maybe even generate income, right? So I believe this is actually very popular with younger generation who basically grew up with internet. Okay, so older people like us may find it a little bit challenging to go into it right now because it's kind of complicated. Okay, so what makes DeFi so popular? Okay, first of all, I think like what I've mentioned, passive income, right? By participating in this DeFi, you can make your asset, your Bitcoin, your Ethereum, or USD, right, work for you by generating income, right? You become a liquidity provider in Uniswap, or you loan it out in Compound or Aave, and you earn income, you earn interest, right? Make your money work for you, okay? So like yield farming, all this makes the money work for you. Of course, it is higher return, it comes with higher risk. We'll talk about risk later on, okay? And also it allows users to leverage on things like lending, right? To put their asset to work, right? Getting the best possible returns. And the returns of all these are really, if you look at the returns of Compound or Uni, coupled with the price of the token. So if the return is in terms of Uni or in Comp, then and you went up 500%, 1000%, and you will know how much your asset have increased, right? Your returns is huge. Compare that to putting your money in the bank and earn 0.00 interest, right? Or spend money buying stocks or gold, which may have appreciated a bit, but there's nothing that can be compared to what you got here. Okay, so I think very importantly, DeFi is a lot of them are open source, not all, but a lot of them are open sourced, right? And this open source creates what we call community-driven ecosystem building. It's just like Lego, you know, all these different Lego, different components, because they're all open source, and you can put them together and create your own products overnight, right? And based on all this, you can create better services and products. You can address needs that all these protocols did not address, right? So suddenly the whole DeFi community is booming because there are a lot of new products and services that is coming out every day, right? To better serve the user, to create better usability and so on. So this is something that you cannot see in traditional finance, where only the big banks, the powerful, the rich can actually have a say in this and build products. Okay, so it kind of open up the imagination for young, capable people. To them, the sky's the limit, right? It's up to imagination what you can do here. So which is why I believe this is future. Okay, so because it is inclusive, it is also very competitive, right? So with all this competition going on, the users get the benefit of being able to choose from it the best services, the best return for them, right? Which they cannot do in the traditional finance. Okay, what are the problems? It's risky, right? It is risky. In crypto, we have a saying, not your key, not your coin. It's your keys and it's therefore your responsibility. So if you lose your key, your asset is gone forever. So what are the risks? Well, first of all, things like the wild swing in the token prices, right, can lead to massive gains and of course, massive losses, right? So if you participate in DeFi, be prepared. You can earn money, but you can also lose money. Okay, so things like impermanent loss, slippage, you can get liquidated if your prices, your asset, like you lock it into compound, it went down and it gets lower than the value of the loans you took out, it will automatically liquidate your asset to pay for the loans, right? So these are things to watch out for. Okay, so of course, being a computer program, right? All these smart contracts are basically computer program running on Ethereum. They are susceptible to bugs and hacks, and it did happen quite a lot actually, right? So the smart contract itself, if it is very complicated, it may have bugs which hackers can exploit, right? And it did happen a few times. They can cause your asset to be gone, right? So be careful. So only go for those systems, those protocols that has been analyzed and audited to be foolproof. There's no bugs, there's no backdoors, and so on, right? So go for the more reputable one. Of course, cost. Cost is very dear to everyone using this DeFi because almost 95% of this DeFi are built on Ethereum, right? So, and of course, you know, Ethereum prices has gone up, and because it is costly, right? So you have pay a lot of high transaction cost like gas, right? And with smart contracts, you can get have to pay gas a few times per transaction. So all this goes into the cost. So you have to factor in the cost before you go and play with these DeFi protocols, right? So of course there are other better products out there coming like OLO that we have built, ADA by Cardano. So this attempts to address the problems. And of course, Ethereum itself is coming out with their version 2 very soon. I don't know when, but that also attempts to solve these problems. Okay, so overall, it's going to get better and better. Right. Right now, it's still complex, especially if you want to use it. The user experience is still basic, and you require you to have a good understanding of crypto, like how to create a wallet, how to sign up your MetaMask, and how to transfer, how to choose a gas fee, and so on. So it's still complicated. That's why it's quite a high entry barrier in terms of UX for a lot of people, right? So, but of course, there are people who try to make it easier, and that will become better over time. And right now, too much competition and a lot of imitation. You have Uniswap, then you can have we came out with Suzy Swap and all the food swap that came out. I think most of them will vanish and die over time. Okay, but a few that remains might become the future unicorns. Who knows, right? Okay, so and another thing to watch for, the financial watchdog, FATF, Financial Anti-Terrorist, Financial Action Task Force, right? This is a global body that aim at creating awareness and to prevent things like money laundering. So they are looking at DeFi as well, and they say that the entities must meet the same anti-money laundering requirements as traditional finance. So that clearly tells you that DeFi sooner or later will have to change, right? Because right now DeFi is that they don't care who you are. There's no KYC, know your customer, right? Anybody can join as long as you have a wallet address. They don't care who you are, you can participate. So you got all these institutions, especially FATF, worried, what about money laundering, terrorist financing, and so on, right? So sooner or later, DeFi has to evolve. Okay, so it boils down to the real value of blockchain technology. We're looking at all these are based on blockchain technology, right? So with DeFi, we have what we call decentralized autonomous organization that runs it, or DAO. So this is a term coined by Vitalik, the Vincent, Chinese we call them, the founder of Ethereum, right? Decentralized autonomous organization. Okay, when we talk about decentralization, I think we have to be very clear. The aim is actually not to do away with authority. It's not to do away with legal and oversight and so on. It is actually the core value of it is to return the power of control to the consumer, return the value, right? The generation of value or the reward back to the user. Okay, the control of power and the reward itself and the ability to participate. So these are what we call decentralization. So even if this controlled by a body, it can still be decentralized in that way, right? As long as it meet these criteria. So decentralized autonomous organization is the organization that tends to create this thing. So someone has to start the DeFi, right? Somewhere, right? Someone has to do it first, right? And slowly evolves into a decentralized model, right? That someone can be an organization that is comprises of volunteers, organization that form an alliance, and so on, right? So together we form this DAO and we manage and we govern this DeFi protocol or this product or this exchange, okay? All the while maintaining the value of this inclusiveness and low entry barrier and return to allow anybody to participate in this. Okay, so another example is CBS, a community business system by Warlock Foundation, the one that I'm presiding over. So CBS is also a decentralized DeFi protocol. What it does is the aim to help SMEs, right? It is a system that help to drive traffic to all the SMEs in the world and to give them the traffic conversion that they need, right? And precise traffic conversion. And in return, the SME will provide value, reward back to the user that participates. So it benefits both the SME and the user. So this is something that we've launched in China and also going to be launched in Asia soon, right? And this will help a lot of SME in the world that is just finding it so hard to draw the kind of traffic that they need, and the cost is high and inefficient, ineffective. Okay, so this is, if you're interested, we can talk about that in future, right? So basically the future is here, and I believe it is somewhat decentralized. Okay, so putting it all together, what is the future? What does the future look like? I think it's going to be like a combination, right? A CDFI, centralized, decentralized finance, kind of weird, right? But I think that is going to happen. That means it will retain most of the benefits of DeFi, but it add in the legal requirements like KFC, KYC, AML. It allows regulatory oversight to happen. Okay, in this way, it actually creates a safer, a more regulated, and a more level playing field for DeFi, right? And enterprises are getting into the game. A lot of traditional enterprises like exchanges, they are launching their DeFi protocol, and some traditional finance system are also looking into creating a DeFi version of their products and services, right? So overall, I think we will see in the future a more and more inclusive financial landscape for end user and for SMEs out there who until now has been locked out of this whole space, right? So this DeFi is still evolving at a very incredible breakneck speed. So it's hard to tell where it's going to be, but for sure it is going to be there in the future, and it's going to be very exciting because we all believe DeFi is the future of finance. And if you invest in DeFi early, all this kind of disruptive technology, it could lead to massive gains. So that is what we see, right? Okay, so that is, we are coming to the end. So thank you for your attention. And if you are interested to contact, this is our contact address and telephone number, email. Last word about Waller Foundation is a non-profit organization that creates a business ecosystem for SMEs worldwide, right? So a low cost effective means of digital upgrading and user acquisition. All right, so that's all I have for today. I think we can open for some question and answers, right?